Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Thursday, July 27th, 2023. Today we're going to recap the Major League Baseball games from yesterday, as well as all the soccer from FIFA and others. Look ahead to everything today, WNBA, golf, trade deadline talk with a couple of trades we have to talk about, news and notes, and best bet. We'll start with baseball. We will go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to today's games. Nats over the Rockies 5-4. Marlins over the Rays 7-1. Guardians over the Royals 8-3. Mariners over the Twins 8-7. Brewers over the Reds 3-0. Cards over the D-backs 11-7. Blue Jays over the Dodgers 8-1. Pirates over the Padres 3-2. Phillies over the O's 6-4. Yankees over the Mets 3-1. Red Sox over the Braves 5-3. Cubs over the White Sox 10-7. Rangers over the Astros 13-5. And the Giants over the Athletics 8-3. Angels-Tigers postponed doubleheader today. All right, only 5 games today in baseball. 1 o'clock, doubleheader game 1, Angels-Tigers. Shohei Ohtani in what could very well be his final start as an Angel against Michael Lorenzen. I assume LA's favored because Ohtani's on the bump. And they are minus 154. Tigers are plus 130. Over under 8. Overs minus 108. Unders minus 104. Angels minus 1.5 is plus 114. Tigers plus 1.5 is minus 137. I do not think this will be Ohtani's final start as an Angel, but you never know. So I'm going to go under 8 at minus 114. 4 o'clock, doubleheader game 2. Angels, Tigers. Patrick Sandoval and Matt Manning. Angels minus 118, Tigers even money, over under 8.5, overs minus 122, unders even money. Angels minus 1.5 is plus 140, Tigers plus 1.5 is minus 170. Tough one, but I like Angels money line on the second one. I think the Angels win both games today. 7 o'clock, you have the Nats at the Mets. Big games for the Mets after splitting with the Yankees. Josiah Gray and Cody Senga. Mets minus 196, Nats plus 164, over under 9, minus 110 each way. Nats plus 1.5 is minus 120. Mets minus 1.5 is even money. Under. I really like the under. Josiah Gray's been pretty good, as has Cody Senga. 7:45, Cubs Cardinals. Justin Steele, Miles Mikolas. Cubs win. They're back to 500. Cards are favored though. Minus 120. Cubs plus 102 over under 9. Overs minus 120. Unders minus 102. Cubs plus 1.5 is minus 220. Cards minus 1.5 is plus 180. Miles Mikolas could be his last start as a Cardinal. I'm going under. I like under in like all these games today. And 8 o'clock, Guardians, White Sox. With a chance for the Guardians to go over 500 on the year. Tanner Bibay and Dylan Cease. White Sox minus 112. Guardians minus 104 over under 8.5. Overs minus 104. Unders minus 118. Guardians minus 1.5 is plus 160. White Sox plus 1.5 is minus 194. Could this be Dylan Cease's last start as a White Sox? White Sox are favored on the money line. Guardians favored on the run line. I do think the Guardians win today, though. Minus 104. All right, now we'll move on to FIFA. We have one result to go over from last night and a couple overnights. And then we'll go ahead to some overnight tonight. U.S. and Netherlands, 1-1 draw. Very disappointing result for our girls out there in Australia. Very disappointing. You should have went undefeated in this tournament and you didn't. Jill Roord scored in the 17th minute and Lindsey Horan scored in the 62nd minute. Ends up in the draw. The draw's better than a loss, but that makes their next game an absolute must-win, which is not until Tuesday, August 1st. At 3 a.m., which is not ideal. And then this morning or overnight, Portugal over Vietnam 2-0 and Nigeria over Australia 3-2. All right, tonight at 8 o'clock on Fox Sports 1, you have Argentina and South Africa, Group G. Argentina coming off a loss against Italy, and South Africa's coming off a loss against Sweden. Argentina's plus 115, South Africa's plus 260, draws 2-1. I'm going with Argentina at plus 115. All right. One sort of overnight, or I should say very early game, and then one morning game. England, Denmark at 4:30 a.m. Group D, the two teams I had winning Group D, they're both coming off wins. England beat Haiti, and Denmark defeated China. England's minus 220, Denmark is plus 650, the draw is plus 290. I'm going to go with Denmark at plus 650. I picked them to win the group, so I think we're getting a little bit of an upset here. And then tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. you have China and Haiti. Also Group G. China's minus 160, Haiti's plus 450, the draw is plus 270. I'm going to go with over 2.5 goals at plus 110. All right, now we'll move on to other soccer. We'll start with League Cup, which we had some results from yesterday. New England over Athletic St. Louis 5-1. DC United over CF Montreal 1-0. NYCFC over Toronto 5-0. Philadelphia over Querétaro 5-1. Monterrey over Salt Lake 3-0. And Lyon over the Galaxy 1-0. And Tigres over Portland 2-1. All right, 4 games tonight. 8 o'clock, you have Guadalajara and Cincinnati both coming off wins. This is Group C. I had both teams coming out of their groups. Guadalajara hasn't played yet. Cincinnati, though, is coming off the draw against KC, in which they won the game. Just got to pull up the odds here. So, Guadalajara is plus 240. Cincy's even money. The draw is plus 240 as well, so I'm going with Cincinnati. Or, no, wait. I have Guadalajara winning the group. So, never mind. I'm taking Guadalajara plus 240 in an upset over Cincy. 8:30 of Nashville and Toluca. Nashville coming off the win over Colorado, and Toluca has not played yet. This is Central Group 4. Nashville's minus 105. Toluca's plus 240. So is the draw. I'm going with Nashville at minus 105. Minnesota, Chicago, Group C2. Mini minus 145. Chicago's plus 360. The draw's plus 260. I'm going to go with the Chicago Fire plus 360 to pull off the upset. And then 10 o'clock, you have America and St. Louis. St. Louis coming off the loss to the Columbus Crew, and America has not played yet. America plus 110, St. Louis plus 210, draw plus 230. I'm going to back St. Louis here at plus 210 as an underdog. All right, some friendly results to go over. So from yesterday, the ones that were played after we recorded: Espanyol over Las Palmas 2-1, PSV over FC Eindhoven 3-1, AS Roma Braga 1-1 draw, Brighton over Brentford 2-0, Aston Villa over Fulham 2-0, Millonarios over Crystal Palace 2-1, Chelsea Newcastle 1-1 draw, Real Madrid over Man United 2-0, and Arsenal over Barcelona 5-3. And then from this morning, Inter Milan El Nasser 1-1 draw. the K-League All-Stars over Atletico 3-2. And at 1 o'clock today, you have Feyenoord and Villarreal. That's a tough one. I think Villarreal can win that one. I'm going to say them. 10:30, Juventus Milan. I'm going to say draw. 10:30, ESPN2. You have Dortmund against the San Diego Loyal of the USL. So I'm going to say Dortmund wins that one. And tomorrow morning at 6:20, PSG and Ceresco Osaka. For this one, PSG should win. So I'm going to go with PSG. We also have results from the Europa Conference and the regular qualifying leagues. So qualifying, Aris Limassol over Beit Borisov 6-2. Sheriff Tiraspol over Maccabi Haifa 1-0. Rakow Czestochowa over FK Karabakh 3-2. KL Klosvik and BK Hacken 0-0 draw. Ludogorets and Olympija 1-1 draw. Conference qualifying. Struga over Budućnost 1-0. Saba over Rigas 2-0. FC Midtjylland over Progress 2-0. FCSB over CSKA 1-0. Fenerbahce over Zimbru 5-0. And Neiman Grando over Balzan 2-0. I'm going to check today. So we have Conference League qualifying. Not going to give out picks. It's just a lot of games. And we have other things to get into. So I'm just going to go over to 11 o'clock. Lashkert and Debrecen. These are all first legs. Ararat, Armenia, and Aris. Enter D. Esclatus and Hibernian. Ordubasi and Legia. 12 o'clock, Bodo Glimt and Bohemians. FK Kabbalah and Amania. 1 o'clock, Apol and Vojvodina. CSK Sofia and Sepsi Stefantu. Desjardins IF and FC Luzern. Ferencvaros and Shamrock Rovers. FK Auda and FC Spartak. Jazeera United F91 Dudelang. Kalmar and Pionik. Kizkomedi TE and Riga FC. Torpedo, Kuriasi, and Akatobi Lento. Victoria Pleasin and Drita Glujlan. 1:30 CFR Cluj Lapoka and Adana Demirspor. FC Basel and Tobol Kastane. FC Differdanjo 3 and NK Maribor. FC Ferul Constana and Benance. Maccabi Tel Aviv and Petrokub Hinseti. Payok Solnika and Beatar Jerusalem. Vorskla and Dila Giori. 2 o'clock, B36 Torchvon and Haverford West. Besiktas and SK Tirana. Club Brugge and AGF Aarhus. Ducagini and Rijeka. FC 20 and Hammarby. Hapoel Be'er and Panavezes. KA Akureyri and Dundalk. KAA Gent and MSK Zelina. NK Selje and Gumaras. Azajek and Zerjazeri TE. Torpedo Zodino and AEK Larnaca. Austria Vienna and Borac Bajana Luka. Lech Poznan and Kono Zalgiris. 2:45 Derry City and Cups Kuopio. Linfield and Pogon Sizeskin. Crusaders and Rosenborg at 3. FK Sujeska and Santa Coloma. Shikupi and Levski Sofia. And last but not least, Zeljanikar Sarajevo and Neftchi. So that's a lot of Conference League qualifying right there. USL, we have a lot of results from yesterday. Indy over Pittsburgh 3-1, Oakland over Vegas 1-0, and Sacramento over Phoenix 4-0. I actually went over the Saturday slate by accident on yesterday's show, so I apologize about that. And then League One, South Georgia over Forward Madison 4-1, and North Carolina over Northern Colorado 2-0. And then we have some League One. If I'm not mistaken. No, we do not have League One. So, there you have it for soccer. And now we'll move on to the WNBA as we'll go over the results from yesterday, or I should say result, and look ahead to today. Lynx over the Mystics 97-92, high-scoring game for the WNBA. If I'm not mistaken, I think I did take the over in the game as a pick. So 2 games today, 3:30 NBA TV of the Fever and the Sparks. The Sparks are favored by 3.5. Totals 162.5. I like the over now, and that's low. And then 7 o'clock on Prime, the Dream and the Liberty. The Liberty are giving 8.5. Totals 172.5. That's an interesting one. I think that the sports books are adjusting to the Liberty, but I'm still going to fade them against the spread here and take Atlanta getting the points. I think New York wins, but it'll be close. All right, now I'll move on to golf. We have an early leaderboard for the $3 Million Open. So we will take a look at that. Your early leader right now with the score of 5 under is Tony Finau. Tied for second with 3 under, Justin Su. Ben Griffin tied for fourth with 2 under. Patrick Rogers, Brett Horschel, Richie Wierenski tied for seventh with 1 under. Kremer Hickok, Adam Hadwin, Nate Hardy, Hideki Matsuyama, Victor Norman, Mackenzie Hughes, Tyler Duncan, Keith Mitchell, Joaquin Herman, Scott Stevens, Matthias Schwab, Brian Stewart, Callum Tarrant. Tied at 20th at even, Harry Hall, Zach Blair, Jimmy Walker, Paul Haley, Henrik Norlander, Mark Hubbard, Sam Ryan, Ryder Fox, Sunghoon Kim, Austin Eckler, Taylor Hogue, Chester V, Matt Kuchar, Ryan Bram, Adam Svensson, Brent Snecker, Nicholas Echeverria, Cam Davis, Martin Laird, Doc Redmond, Alex the Red, Grayson Murray, Max McGreevy, Brandon Wu, Nate Watney, Troy Merritt, and James Hahn. Tied for 47th with 1 over. Robbie Shellen, Matt Wallace, Lucas Glover, Seb Straka, Sanjay M, Stuart Singh, Christian Ziedenhout. 54th with 2 over. Doug Gim. 55th with 3 over is Kelly Kraft. So there's your early leaderboard for that. All right, trade deadline for Major League Baseball. So we did have a trade. Make that 2 trades. The first trade was we had 3 trades yesterday. What am I saying? The first trade of the day, Marlins and Twins. Reliever for reliever swap. Dylan Floro to Minnesota for Jorge Lopez. 2 relievers that surprising trade, but disappointing for their teams this year. So straight up, you don't see a straight up trade for relievers very often. And here we are. So, in terms of who I think will do better in their new location, well, Floro is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And Jorge Lopez, the Twins got from the Baltimore Orioles. Well, in reality, Floro's been better this year than Lopez. So I kind of like the deal better for Minnesota for now, but they're both over 30, which is nuts. And Lopez is coming off a career year last year. So I do like it better for Minnesota because Floro's been better than Lopez, and I think the Twins might have realized that that Lopez had a career year that 1 year with the Orioles, and then it got him traded. So I kind of like it better for Minnesota, but the change of scenery trades sometimes work out for both teams, and sometimes they don't work out for either team. The second trade of yesterday, the Guardians trade Ahmed Rosario to the Dodgers for Noah Syndergaard. A rare straight up trade involving a pitcher and a position player. The Dodgers, I like it for them. They had a hole at shortstop, so it makes sense for them to acquire a shortstop. And they get somebody, in my opinion, who had a career year last year. I mean, he's hitting well this year, too. But his power's down. So, we'll see. We'll see if Rosario picks it up a little bit with the trade. And then on the flip side, the fact that they got Syndergaard makes me think that they might trade one of their pitchers. Doesn't that give you that signal? So, yeah, interesting trade. I like it for the Dodgers. I don't like it for I like it for Dodgers, hate it for Cleveland. And the most surprising trade so far, the Angels acquire Lucas Giolito from the Chicago White Sox for prospects Edgar Quero and Kai Busch. And then Reynaldo Lopez goes to L.A. in the deal as well. I like the return for Chicago. I think they did very well getting the Angels' top two prospects for a reliever that has an ERA of almost 4. And the guy that I think is a number 2 rather than a number 1 guy in the rotation. So, Angels pretty much kind of going for it and trying to convince Shohei Ohtani to stay. So that trade is not good for the teams that want to go out and get Shohei Ohtani. But then again, if the Angels fall flat on their face and get swept over the weekend, maybe they fall out of it and Ohtani ends up getting dealt anyway, and then Giolito could be, in theory, your Ohtani replacement in the rotation. So, I could see why they did this, but only for this year. So, Giolito's also a free agent at the end of the year, like Ohtani. So maybe they look at him as a short-term replacement. I do not like this trade for LA at all. Unless, if Giolito turns into the guy that was a Cy Young candidate a few years ago. But yeah, the prospects. Edgar Quero, not having the best year at AA, but was fantastic last year. At single A, and then Kai Busch not having a great year this year, 7.2 ERA. But he only had started 8 games, so that's a hefty price to give up for a pitcher that's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and the reliever, another pitcher that's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So great job on the White Sox for cashing in onto free agents to be. So, wild trade. Angels look like they're going for it. We'll see who else the White Sox send off. But the White Sox have done a nice job so far, in my opinion. And the Angels are also eyeing Jeimer Candelario, who's having a good year in the Nationals. So, look at them trying to go for it. And then Sports Illustrated reported that the Angels are not trading Ohtani, as they take him off the trade market and will have to be buyers. And then they were correct, as they went out and got Giolito, and they're looking at Jeimer Candelario. And then Ohtani preferred to stay, as he wanted to remain with the team for a run at the playoffs instead of being traded. And then the offers were underwhelming, they said, due to recent success and lack of appealing offers. But you know what team's to blame for this. It's the New York Yankees, because they fell flat on their face and the Angels took advantage of them. So, the teams that are trying to go for Ohtani, you could blame the Yankees because they made the Angels believe that they were buyers. Some other trade deadline stuff. The Yankees are leaning towards being a buyer. I mean, they've won 4 of their last 5, with the one loss being that Mets game on Tuesday. We'll see what they do. And I'd understand if they became buyers because they're less than 3 back in the wild card. They're getting their best player back, and they're going to potentially treat that like a trade deadline acquisition because he's the best player in baseball that doesn't pitch. Get it? So, and low-key, with Baltimore and Tampa losing, the Yanks and the Red Sox, respectively, are only 7 and 8 back of the AL East. I know the Yanks are in last right now, but they're the best last-place team by a mile, and they're only 8 back in the division. So the division's kind of low-key sitting there. So 2 back in the loss column are the Yankees, which is important. Angels are 3 back in the loss column, so I understand why they made that trade for Giolito, but they better stay 3 back in the loss column come trade deadline day, or else that trade's going to look more and more like a mistake. And then Boston, I don't know. I mean, I understand why they dealt Kike away, but I wonder if they're going to become a buyer too. And then now where do the O's and the Rays go with Ohtani off the market? We'll see. I think the O's should explore like Aaron Savali of the Guardians. Shane Bieber's hurt. I don't think Milwaukee's going to trade Corbin Burns. Maybe they look to Blake Snell of the Padres. There's some other guys I could see Baltimore looking at. The Rays checked in on Lance Lynn. I don't know if I would like that addition for the Rays, but if anybody can fix Lance Lynn, it could be Tampa Bay. So we'll see. Mitch Keller could be on the market. That would be a great Oriole and a great Ray. He'd turn into a Cy Young winner on the Rays. But we'll see about that. So keep an eye out for Baltimore and Tampa Bay in terms of a big fish. Toronto's going to be buyers. So the whole AL East looks like they're going to be buyers, and they all should be because they're all less than 3 back in the loss column in the wild card and divisions, respectively. And obviously one team's in first, and that's the O's. So keep an eye on the AL East. The Central looks like the Guardians are going to be a seller. They traded Rosario. But then again, they got Syndergaard as a return. So we'll see what happens with them and who they move. The Twins made the reliever for reliever swap yesterday, which we already talked about. White Sox made a seller's move. We'll see how they do with the sell-off. But I think they've done a nice job so far despite those 2 prospects having tough years. So maybe a change of scenery can do them wonders. Tigers, Lorenzen's probably going to get traded. Erod's another Oriole candidate. Royals, we'll see who they move. I think Sal Perez is going to move. AL West, the Rangers, I think, need a reliever and a bat. I think Pittsburgh would be a great match with them, with Reynolds and Bendar. Houston, I think, could use another bat. Jose Abreu's been terrible this season. I understand why the Angels went for it, but it could end up being a mistake. They did need a starter, and they did need a reliever. They can use somebody like Candelario, so we'll see if they go after him. Mariners are going to sell, I think. We'll see who gets traded off of that team. And then, obviously, the A's, who are just an atrocity and have literally no assets to deal for big packages. Mets are going to sell. It looks like they will trade D-Rob, Canna and Pham. JV and Scherzer, TBD, we'll see. Phillies are going to buy. You know they'll buy. They're probably going to go for some of those Cardinal guys now that Shohei's off the table, or Juan Soto if the Padres are willing to put him on the market. I wonder if Philadelphia is a potential landing spot for Josh Hader if the Padres decide to move him. Nats are going to sell. They'll trade Candelario. Maybe some arms in the bullpen. Marlins made the reliever swap. They should buy. Miami should buy. So let's see what else they can do. Atlanta is the only team that I could say that they don't really have to do anything. They're that good, Atlanta. And to me, they should be the favorites to win the World Series. Unless if somebody does something gigantic. But it looks like Ohtani's not being traded, so the Braves should be the favorites to win the World Series. And the NL Central, I think the most interesting team in the NL Central is the Chicago Cubs. They're 3 back of the Reds in the loss column of that last wild card. They might be a surprise buyer. Cody Bellinger might be off the trade block because the Cubs are right there. They're 4.5 back, but they're 3 back in the loss column, which matters. So keep an eye on the Cubs. So if Bellinger doesn't move and say they buy instead of sell, I mean, you can't rule them out. Don't rule out the Cubs potentially being a buyer. A surprise buyer, for sure. Cards are going to sell. We know that. Dylan Carlson, I think, will move. That could be a Yankee guy. Arenado and Goldschmidt will be the 2 big names being talked about now that Ohtani's off the market. And then all their pitchers are available, like Mikolas, Flaherty. Those are some Oriole candidates. I think Miles Mikolas would be a good Oriole. He'd be good on the Rays. Jack Flaherty on Baltimore would be interesting. I don't think Liberatore's going to go. I think he's a keeper, though. Milwaukee looks like they're going to stay on hold and potentially be a buyer. But they need some bats. The Reds are going to buy. They need pitching. And then obviously the Pirates are going to sell. And we'll see where they trade Bednar. Maybe they'll trade Reynolds and Keller. We'll see if they blow it up entirely. Dodgers are going to go for it. They traded for Rosario, so they finally get that shortstop upgrade that they needed. And then you have the D-backs who are going to buy. They're a half game out of the wild card. They're tied in the loss column with the Reds and the Marlins. D-backs need pitching. Rockies are going to sell. Padres look like they're going to hold, but maybe they do trade Hader and Snell. They're 6 back in the loss column. So it looks like they'll sell. And then the San Francisco Giants are the leader in the clubhouse for the wild card right now. They own the first wild card in the National League, so they're going to buy. And I know they just called up the prospect, Marco Luciano, but they need more than that. They need a lot of offense, and I think they could use some rotation upgrades as well. And that was an Ohtani team, but I didn't think they had the assets to do that trade. So we'll see what San Francisco does. All right, the news and notes. We had a lot of trade deadline talk today because we actually did have a couple of trades. We'll start with baseball for other baseball. So Rob Manfred signs extension 4-year deal. They'll keep him in the role through at least 2028. Obviously, Manfred, I don't think, is a good commissioner. There's some things that I don't think have worked under his leadership, but there are things that of recent that have worked, such as the pitch clock. So We'll see what else he can pull off in these next couple of years that could improve the sport. The Astros got two big boppers back in their lineups. In their lineup in Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve, as they both had oblique injuries. And Altuve was out for a couple weeks, and Yordan was out for a while. And go figure, they go and lose to the Rangers 13-5, and Altuve and Alvarez's first game back. But the Astros did have a great series, and they have those two guys back, so I think they should be the favorites to win the AL West, barring some Reynolds, Bednar, Rangers trade and the Astros staying put. And another big-time player returning from injury this weekend, reportedly. Yankees captain Aaron Judge, barring a late setback to play tomorrow in Baltimore against the Orioles. That is the news that everybody's been waiting for. It's been a long 8 weeks without Mr. Judge. And with him back in the lineup, I think that the Yanks could be headed for a monster August and September to get themselves in one of those wild card spots for sure. So I think that this will absolutely motivate the Yankees in the best way, and they finally get their leader back in the clubhouse. MLB and starter relaunch iconic 90s look for Yankees and Mets, which is interesting. We're going to do soccer now. David Silva retires as he suffered an ACL injury in the preseason. That's really sad. David Silva had a great career. Just unfortunate that injury cost him the career. So there's some criticism towards the women's coach, Vlatko Adanovsky, as he decided against using a sub. That is, in my opinion, not a good decision, and it could have cost them the win. It's disappointing that they actually won't go undefeated in this tournament, because I think that highly of this team. But this will be irrelevant if they win this World Cup, which is still on the table for them. So hopefully Vlatko learns his lesson. One more soccer. There was a picture of Messi that went viral. As a fan got a picture of a Messi moment as Messi scored in front of a fan. All right, football. Another contract extension handed out to Bears tight end Cole Kmet, 4 years for $50 million, $32.8 million guaranteed. So the Bears lock up their tight end. Joe Burrow's deal may exceed $263 million, as he's expected to become the league's highest paid player at some point this offseason, which is not surprising. And then Aaron Rodgers signed a new 2-year, $75 million guaranteed contract and had nearly $110 guaranteed remaining on old deal, as he took a $35 million pay cut. Dalvin Cook is visiting the Jets today, so we'll see how that goes. Maybe they bring him on. Najee Harris took a shot at the Giants as he called the current running back market unfair as well as Saquon's new contract. Well, I think the running backs need to accept that this is how the league works now, and their position is devalued in today's game. And that's why Joe Shane, let's face it, kind of lowballed him with that deal. The Cowboys, Donovan Wilson, had a calf strain, and the injury wasn't serious as he was carted off during practice on Wednesday. He could miss 4 to 6 weeks. So that would be a pretty big hit for the Cowboys secondary. And Jim Irsay ripped the running back situation as he defends the current CBA and calls out agents who are selling bad faith. And Jonathan Taylor's agent claps back at Irsay on social media. And we didn't even talk about this with baseball. Adolis Garcia had a grand slam in the Ranger-Astro game, and there was a benches clearing incident in Houston. Oh, boy. So, keep an eye on that going forward. More football. Colorado is in Big 12 talks or I should say college sports talk, as the Buffaloes have had a board meeting scheduled for today to discuss potential Pac-12 exit. And then the Big 12 votes to accept the Buffs, as they are expected to apply for the Big 12 membership today after conference's unanimous vote. I think they belong in the Big 12. I think Utah belongs in the Big 12. So that'd be great for the Big 12. But I gotta be honest, there's a couple teams in the Big 12 that I really don't think belong in the Big 12 from a geographical standpoint. West Virginia, and now UCF. To me, the Big 12 should be like in that South Midwest kind of, like Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, Utah. Like that should be the Big 12. And from a travel standpoint, I don't think it would make sense for West Virginia to be in the Big 12, and same for UCF. And Cincinnati shouldn't be in the Big 12 either. But now it kind of makes sense because them and West Virginia could be like a bigger rivalry now. I mean, they were rivals back in the day in the Big East too. But I don't think that either of those two teams, as well as UCF, should be in the Big 12. I think that Cincy and West Virginia should be in the ACC. And honestly, you can make a case UCF should be too, and Notre Dame should be in the Big 10. That's my argument for conference realignment. We'll do this on the podcast a different day in terms of who should be where in each conference. But I personally love the idea of Colorado being in the Big 12. So Bradley Beal spoke about the Suns trade as he says it's surreal and crazy to think about how the deal came together. Talk about a same old story, different year situation. Ben Simmons in the final stage of prep and looks as healthy as he's ever been since leaving the Sixers. Give me a break. Prove it to me. Stay on the freaking court. My God. There's a clip of Nikola Jokic signing shirtless, which was pretty awesome. And then Brad Marchand thanks Bergeron in an emotional message after Bergeron announced his retirement. Last but not least, my best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. There's a couple that jumped out to me. in terms of possibilities. Yesterday's best bet was a winner between the Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays. But the one that jumped out to me the most was the under 9 in Nats Mets. I'm going to lay 1/10 of a unit on it. And I believe that this could be a very, very easy winner. Maybe it's an overreaction from the Yankee series a little bit, especially yesterday for the Mets. But the Nats can't score either. I think Senga will pitch well. I could see this being a 5-2 game, and obviously that would be a winner. So under 9 between the Nats and the Mets for my best bet of the day. So that's it for the show. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything, look ahead to everything for tomorrow and the weekend. So hope you guys have a great day, everyone.